When Daniel built the house, he put a piece of etched glass in the high dining room window to filter the late afternoon sun on clear days. Now, Anna wished to ensconce that beautiful window in one of her beloved heavy tapestry curtains, just like every other one in the house. But Daniel put his foot down about this one. He refused to live in a dungeon the year round. He'd accepted his wife's wisdom about how to keep the house warm in the winter and surprisingly cool in the hot Minneapolis summer by actually closing it up tight, counter to what many people thought logical. They spent most of their time outdoors all summer anyway, and he discovered that Anna's intuition proved wise. They'd come in and open up the house after dusk, and it would feel fresh and cool and perfect. He still relished seeing the rainbows his beautiful window threw onto the opposite wall every Sunday as they shared a family dinner. He thought it was especially lovely in late winter, as the sun rose and lingered longer and higher in the sky and reminded him of the bountiful summer yet to come. Though she generally felt content with her new life in Minneapolis, Anna sometimes missed her family back home in Stuttgart. Letters took so long to cross the ocean that she felt her younger sisters had grown up overnight without her. Martha was about to get married even. How did that happen so fast? She was so glad that Alma Greta had given her such wonderful things for her journey. A decade later, she still had Alma's leather-bound German Bible and one of the green and white stoneware plates that she got when she married Opa Ernest. 2 of the plates got broken on her journey from New York to Minnesota, and she dropped another 2 years ago. But she still had one beautiful little plate. Anna ate her breakfast every day on that plate. A hard-boiled egg, a slice of sausage or cheese, and homemade bread. Of course, her mother was such a wonderful baker and taught Anna everything she knew. Anna did her best to make good German bread, but she swore the flour was different in America and never came out right.
John worked hard at his job at the plant and often went out to a nearby bar after work with his Ford buddies. But on long, hot summer evenings, he'd sometimes grab a 6-pack on the way home and just sit in his backyard, enjoying the slowly setting sun, the sound of birds chirping and cicadas humming. Sometimes his tenant Joe would come down and chat and have a beer too, and they'd watch their kids enjoy their last few minutes of playtime together before bed. John liked Joe and his family, and was really happy that he and Laura had decided to buy the duplex even before they had children. Now they were building a nest egg for their future and the kids' futures. He considered himself a lucky man.
Minnie adored her dolls so much. She loved the Raggedy Ann doll she'd gotten for her birthday 2 years ago and the hand-me-down wood doll from her cousin Eve, but her favorite was the tiny porcelain doll Granny Skoglund gave her for Christmas this year. Minnie named her Isabella after the Spanish queen she read about in a book. She had long, silky brown hair, blue eyes, and a beautiful pink dress, much fancier than any of the ones that Minnie owned. She always wondered, though, why Isabella was barefoot when she was so dressed up, and wished she could get her some pretty boots. Minnie found an old wooden cigar box in the waste bin and put an old blue handkerchief of Mama's in it to make a nice bed for Isabella. She had tied 2 pieces of twine around the box and made a fancy slip knot to keep her little brother from getting into the box and ruining Isabella, the queen of her dolls.
Ruth loved to sew. Some of her friends thought of sewing as a chore and complained to no end about what they called drudgery. Not Ruth. Ruth loved every step of the process, from checking Lewis and the children's sizes, to taking the streetcar to the dry goods store to find patterns and fabric, to carefully arranging and pinning the pattern pieces to make the best use of the fabric, to stitching it all together, of course. She even loved ironing the clothes she had sewn, which she knew made her an odd bird among modern women. Her favorite task of all was the last one, sewing on buttons by hand, especially little pearl buttons. The tinier, the better. The careful attention she needed to get them in just the right spot seemed to soothe away any other worries and always gave her a feeling of a job well done.
Frank was getting pretty good at playing marbles, and he had amassed a decent collection over the past couple of years. He even had a couple of especially nice large shooters. He liked how the glass marbles looked with their translucent stripes of red, green, and yellow, but he thought the old clay ones he'd found in a box in the basement rolled the best. He liked to hold those old marbles between his fingers and feel the lumps and imperfections and think about how they were made. One time at the fair, he'd seen a man making things out of glass and asked if he could make marbles. The man laughed and said no, he'd need a giant machine to do that, which didn't make much sense to Frank. Even though they had installed a fancy gas dryer along with the new automatic clothes washer in the basement 2 winters ago, Laura preferred to hang clothes outside to dry when it was warm enough out. She loved the smell of fresh air and the crisp, almost hard feel of sheets and towels and clothes dried on the clothesline. John wanted to rip the old metal clothesline poles to make the yard look prettier, but Laura didn't. Her excuse was that it kept the gas bill lower, but she mostly just loved that smell. Laura also enjoyed watching birds flutter around the lines on cold winter days. She'd read somewhere that her favorites, the gorgeous red cardinals, mate for life, and watching them, she had believed it. It gave her hope for her marriage and their wish to have children, despite 5 barren years. Gazing at the cardinals in the snowy yard through her kitchen window, she'd feel happy, recalling warm days spent in her garden, tending the beautiful roses the previous owner had planted. She felt certain this summer their luck would change.
Last year, Susie and her sister Sandra both got doll-sized tea sets from Santa. Sandra seemed completely uninterested in hers. What a tomboy. She liked to go outside and ride her bike and climb trees with the boys from upstairs. Susie disapproved and wondered when her sister was going to settle down and act like a proper girl. Oh well, that just meant that she got to play with both tea sets, so there. Susie would spread out a plaid hanky that looked kind of like a tablecloth and lay out tea for 4, even though she only had 3 dolls. 1 Barbie, 1 Ken, and 1 Skipper. She'd pretend that they were waiting for one of their friends, Midge. That explained the vacancy at the table. Barbie would ask Ken how his day had gone at work, and he'd tell her a funny story and some jokes. Then Barbie and Skipper would talk about what new clothes they wanted to buy the next time they went to Dayton's at the new shopping center near Midge's house. In reality, Susie had only been to that store once with her friend Donna. Donna's mom had a car of her own and could drive them there. Susie's mom didn't, so anytime they wanted to go shopping, they'd have to take the bus downtown. And that was way more boring.